Hi everyone, my name is Shelby Novak and I am a senior in agronomy here at Iowa State. I grew up in Oxford, Iowa, and that's about 15 miles west of Iowa City if you're familiar with where that is. What is my race and ethnicity? I definitely claim to be a Czechoslovakian. I have family ties in that country, in that region. And my name, Novak, actually means new man when it's translated from Czechoslovakian to English. When my ancestors came across the ocean to the United States, they were given the last name New Man, and they actually kept that, but they changed it to Novak, which is the Czech translation. Almost immediately from when they moved and got to the United States, they moved to eastern Iowa because there's a lot of other people from Czechoslovakia that migrated here as well. In Cedar Rapids, which is just north of here, there is the National Czech and Slovak Museum and Heritage Foundation. So you can definitely get a sense of the Czech heritage that is from around here. If you were to have asked me that question when I was in middle school and early high school years, I very likely would have said that I was just a Caucasian female. But in the later years in high school and in college, I realized that your ethnicity is very important to the person that you are. And since then, I am proud to say that I am a Czechoslovakian. And that I have family ties there. The history and heritage from Czechoslovakia has definitely shaped who I am, whether I admit it or not, and whether I'm aware of it or not. It's definitely changed and affected who I am as a person. Where am I from? As I said earlier, I grew up on a farm outside of Oxford, Iowa, and actually the picture behind me is a picture of the homestead that my family has lived on for over 100 years. And actually I'm going to show you an artifact, which is just a picture of the house that my great-great-grandparents built, and it still stands today, and it's actually the house that I was raised in. And this house actually has more meaning to me than I probably ever would have admitted, but this house is where my great-grandparents lived, my grandparents lived, my parents lived, where I lived. There's just a lot of family history there, and that's definitely shaped the person that I am today. When I was graduating high school, I had one goal, and that was to get far away from here. It wasn't that I disliked here, I just never experienced anything else. I had the opportunity to go to the University of Arkansas for school, and I jumped on that opportunity. It was the best decision of my life, and I'm so glad that I had the capability to leave home and the family support to leave home. But after a couple years, I missed home so much. I could only come home close to the holidays. I felt like I missed out on just Sunday meals with my mom. I just missed home. And so after a couple years at Arkansas, I transferred to the university here in Ames, and I'm finishing my degree here so that I can be much closer to home, which is really important to me. Ames is only 2 hours from where my parents live currently, so I come home as often as I can. Usually every couple weekends or so I'll go home and get to spend some time with my family and with my friends from here at home. And that's really important to me because with the history from growing up in this house and having so many family ties to this community, I was grown up with the importance of community and family, and I can definitely say that I'm a family-oriented person. Whenever my sister comes to town or whenever my brother's in town, I like to be here so that I can spend time with them rather than be stuck in Ames, hanging out with my college friends. I can do that every other day of the week, but I can't always see my brother and my sister. So that's really important, and I feel like a lot of that stems from where I grew up and the house that I lived in, and that there's so much family history here. Growing up, we, all three of us kids, we were in as many sports as we could get our hands on. We loved to play basketball, we loved to play volleyball, we loved to run track, just all sorts of stuff. We loved to stay busy. We were in 4-H. And any time either I or my sister or brother had any type of a sporting event or a different school activity, we were always there to support each other. A lot of the times it seemed like my brother was drugged to our sporting events, but he still made it there, and that's really important to us because as I'm getting older and getting closer to having a family of my own, that's going to be something that I look for and want in my family. I'm going to want a family that is super family-centered and is always there to support each other no matter what we do in life. I think it's very important to know where your roots come from and your family history, because that definitely shapes who you are, whether you believe it or not, and whether you even know where your family comes from. If you can find that out, then you might have a lot of answers to some of your deep questions about who am I, who is Shelby Novak, and that a lot of that stems from my family ties and family history. When I think of the word Indian or Native American, the very first thing I think of is Disney's Pocahontas. It is one of many of our first exposures to Indians and to Native Americans, and that is where we get a lot of our what we call knowledge from Native Americans. But when I think a little bit more about Native Americans and what I know about them, I can remember some stories from my grandfather about him playing cards with some Native Americans who lived really close to where we lived. In our back pastures, we have some ponds and some timber, and my grandfather knew when he was younger that there were Indians who lived back there. It was still our land that we had probably bought from them, but they were allowed to live back there, and that was just fine with my family. There was no issues whatsoever. And so I think against many of the stereotypes that society has given to us, I think that they're extremely social people, that they get along with just about anyone. I've never experienced any Native Americans that want to fight me or want to be drunk all the time. And another story I can think of relating to Native Americans and first-hand exposure, which I haven't had a lot, like I said, is when my family took a trip to the Grand Canyon. We took an RV and we drove all the way from Oxford, Iowa to the Grand Canyon, and we came through the mountains, and there were Native American shops along the roads. And so we would stop and we would see what they had, and it was really cool, and they were so friendly. And that was something that I was ready to experience. I was not anticipating anyone being hostile or grumpy or upset about anything, and that was just kind of the exposure that I had of Native Americans when I grew up. I will see you in a few weeks with the next presentation we have to do. Bye, guys!